Alright everyone, I'm King Ironfrost and thank you for taking the time to join me again. So today I thought I'd do a top 5 list of the best vanilla weapons in my opinion. I'll be taking into consideration the weapon stats, the situations it can be useful in, and of course some personal preference. I'd also love for you lot to give me your own personal opinions in the comments, and if you think I'm wrong about anything, please try and change my mind, I'm completely open for it. These opinions are formulated from 6 years of playing Rimworld and also some testing I did for this video. I'd also like to clarify my use of the word vanilla. Due to Rimworld being a heavily moddable game, I'm using vanilla to mean any official Ludion Studios content. Try saying that fast. Therefore, I included the official expansion royalty into my decisions. This is also because royalty adds such a small number of weapons, it would be pretty pointless to discuss them in a separate royalty video. Anyway, I hope you enjoy the video and let's get straight into number 5. The number 5 slot goes to the Mono Sword from the Royalty expansion. Now, I was a little hesitant putting a melee weapon into this list because honestly I kind of hate them. I feel melee combat is more often a liability than not, with friendly fire and high damage against you almost guaranteed. And don't get me wrong, I do love a bit of a scrap every now and again in games. You know, I love Mount and Blade, I love the Total War series, a bit of melee fighting is fantastic, but for me in Rimworld it just doesn't seem particularly viable. But the Mono Sword is pretty impressive if you can actually get into a fight with it, and I think that's why it deserves a spot on this list. Firstly, let's just jump straight into the pros of this weapon. It has probably the best armor penetration in the game at 84%. Couple that with the amazing melee damage of 27 cut or stab, you're doing basically 27 damage a hit regardless of an enemy's armor level, which is absolutely incredible for defeating late game enemies and absolutely fantastic for smashing up some mechanoids if for some reason you decide you wanted to go square up to one. Now, if you want to take full advantage of the Mono Sword, then you can give it to a good Psycaster. You give it to a good Psycaster that has learnt skip or invisibility, and they can get straight behind enemy lines to snipers or other ranged pawns that are giving you trouble and just mow them down with this sword. Armoured or unarmoured, they're going to absolutely destroy them. They can take off limbs in 1 or 2 hits. It is an absolutely crazy sword once you can actually get up close to use it. Now let's move on to the cons of the Mono Sword. Firstly, it's not craftable, simple as that. You'll only be able to find it through quest rewards, or if you kill someone with one, or if you manage to buy one. So that really puts you at a bit of a disadvantage of trying to get it, and it also makes it so, you know, it's pure chance if you actually manage to find one or not. The second con is my biggest gripe with it personally, but it still made the list because of how powerful it is. It's a melee weapon. You'll need a shield belt, you'll need good armor if you want to actually get even close to anyone before you can even use it, because half the time you'll just get mowed down with melee weapons, so I don't really ever see the point in using them. And even then, if you finally get there and you're engaged in melee with them, all it takes is one of your shooters to do a stray hit and accidentally hit the neck of your own soldier, and then they're on the floor dying. You know, I just really don't think melee is very viable, but the weapon was so powerful I just had to put it onto the list. Anyway, now let's move on to the number 4 slot. The number 4 slot is going to have to go to the Great Bow. Now, I know some people may find this a little bit odd, so let me just jump straight into the pros to try and explain my decision. Firstly, let's get into how you acquire the Great Bow. Acquiring the Great Bow is easy. It's locked behind a 600 point tech, which is Neolithic level, so it's just easy to research anyway. It's craftable at a crafting spot and at a smithy, so especially the crafting spot's good because you don't even need any resources to build that, and then it's 60 wood to build the bow. So if you're in one of the better biomes like a temperate forest or a jungle, you're going to have no problem building this whatsoever. And in regards to the actual weapon itself, it's got a great range of 30 tiles, which is, you know, 15 less than a sniper rifle, which is again very impressive for a Neolithic weapon. It's got very good damage for early game at 17 points, which is massively effective against the more unarmed people you'll be fighting. And by the time you start fighting more armoured people, you would have progressed past the need for a great bow anyway. But this is what makes it such a good early game weapon, and is pretty essential to survival. And it's got very good accuracy at medium to close ranges. Long range, not so much, but if it's in the hands of a good shooter, you're going to be fine. As with all weapons in Rimworld, it has its cons. The first being, it is not the fastest to fire, with a 2-second warm up and a 1.5-second cooldown. Now, that's not awful, but it's enough for you to get into trouble if all you have are people with great bows. It can do quite well if you position it behind your troops when you have more melee fighters or shorter range weapons in front of it, so it can continuously fire without being harassed too much by enemy pawns. Lastly, it has very poor armor penetration at 15%, so it can become obsolete reasonably quickly when you start fighting outlanders and pirates with composite vests and power armor, or if for some reason you decide to go, oh, I hate my life, I'm going to fight the Empire as a tribe, and they're all coming at you with their cataphracts, and you're just there like, yeah baby, I'm going to shoot you with a great bow. So, you know, it doesn't do very well against late game enemies, and of course mechanoids as well. You don't have a good time with them, so you will need to phase it out for guns at some point. Overall, the great bow is an absolutely fantastic early game weapon and can really carry you and save your ass if you use it properly. Number 3 goes to the absolute beast that is the chain shotgun. Now, I really love this weapon because, you know, haha, shotgun go boom, but there's also some technical reasons for it, so let's jump into those. Now, the sheer damage potential of this shotgun is chef's kiss delicious. It can do a burst fire of 3 shots of up to 18 damage per shot, meaning if all 3 hit, you can do up to 54 damage in total to a pawn. That is just crazy. That can be spread out between 3 body parts, 2 body parts. That can even unload all into 1 body part, and you can just kill a pawn in 1 shot with their head going off, destroying their torso, making their limbs fly everywhere. And due to it being a shotgun blast, it causes a pretty tasty amount of bleeding as well. So you're really going to cripple a pawn that's unlucky enough to get hit by the chain shotgun. And not only does it do this crazy amount of damage, it's a pretty quick fire as well, with 1.2 second warm up and 1.35 second cooldown. That means you can pretty much continuously shoot, and it's not just one shotgun blast pump, one shotgun blast pump. It's bang bang bang, bang bang bang. It's just crazy damage potential from this weapon, really crazy. And moving next is the excellent stopping power of 3.0. That means it can really slow down enemies and even big creatures that may be coming after you, like manhunters or something. You even can slow them down a little bit while shooting them with it. So it's just so powerful. And finally, the icing on the cake is that you can research and craft this shotgun with the relatively cheap price, I would say, of 70 steel and 5 components, because by the time you've decided you want to craft guns, those resources are going to be pretty abundant to you. So yeah, overall, pros wise, absolutely fantastic gun. But alas, even my beautiful son can still have cons. Firstly being, it's got very low range, which can lead to some serious issues with melee fighters unless you've got some kind of way to deal with that. Now, the stopping power can be quite helpful if only 1 or 2 pawns are coming at you, because you can run back a bit, shoot, and hopefully with the sheer damage that the gun does, you'll dispatch them quite quickly. However, the fact that it's got such short range is a big problem. Secondly, as you can imagine, the accuracy is not fantastic, because if it was pinpoint, why the hell would you use any other weapon ever? So the accuracy is pretty poor, but put you in the hands of a good shooter, or even just have a few people just blindly shooting this at a group of people, you're going to hit one of them at some point. So, you know, it's a con, but you can work around it. And finally, it's actually got pretty low armor penetration at 14%, which is even lower than the great bow, which I don't personally really understand, but I guess it's in the game for balance reasons. So if they're a heavily armoured target, you're probably going to have a bit of a harder time taking them down. Overall, the chain shotgun is an absolutely devastating tool if used correctly, and I suppose with the accuracy, a little bit of luck. Anyway, let's move on to the number 2 slot now. Number 2 is a weapon you could probably imagine would be in the top 5 list of most people, and that is the charge rifle. It's a great upgrade to the standard assault rifle, and it's a good damage dealer if used correctly. So let's jump straight into the pros of this weapon. Firstly, it's got a high damage burst shot, so 3 bullets each at 15 damage for a possible of 45 damage in total, which is pretty fantastic. It's got a good range of 26 tiles, making it just a little bit worse than the great bow. Nowhere near sniper level, but it's a good range for an assault rifle. It's pretty quick to fire too, with a 1 second warm up and a 2 second cooldown, so it's about 3 seconds in between each burst, and just due to the damage they do, and if it's in the hands of a good shooter, that will be fine. And it's also craftable, and that is always a bonus if you ask me, because that means you don't really have to wait around. If you've got the materials, just make it yourself. Now there are a few cons as always. Firstly, very poor stopping power at 0.5, so it will barely even slow down a human target when you hit them, which can be a bit of a problem if they're closing in on you quite fast. It's got average to poor accuracy at all ranges, so you really want it in the hands of a good shooter. If you don't have it in the hands of a good shooter, you're going to have trouble. Or, since it's craftable, you want a good crafter to make a higher level one, which can then have better accuracy. And finally, it does have high crafting costs, and it's a late game tech. 50 plasteel, 2 advanced components. Not particularly easy to find, so unless you're swimming in these resources, it's probably not in your best interest to craft this unless you've crafted more important things beforehand. Now, for number 1, the best weapon in Rimworld. The beast itself, the slayer of kings, the destroyer of the unholy, the shiv. The most powerful thing you could... It got removed? Oh, for God's... Well, I suppose if I can't pick the shiv, I'm just going to have to go with the charge lance. I absolutely love the charge lance, especially if I've got 2 or 3 of my colonists using it simultaneously. It punches holes in your colonists when used against you by something like a lancer, but you can also use it to punch holes in your enemies, and damn, it does a good job of that. Let's go straight into the pros. Shots can do up to 30 damage at a range of 30 tiles. That is beefy damage potential, and I absolutely love it. It's got great accuracy at all ranges. If you can get a high level legendary masterwork charge lance, you're looking at basically 100% accuracy for everything but close, but then even close is about 98%, so you're just never going to miss really, even if you have got an idiot using the rifle. It's a faster shot than something like a sniper rifle, despite the sniper rifle being longer range. 1.7 second warm up, 2.7 second cooldown versus the snipers 3.5 second warm up and 2.3 second cooldown. Because of this, the charge lance is actually a better choice for long range engagements in my opinion, because just the damage potential is much greater than that of a sniper rifle, and it's probably more accurate even in the hands of someone that doesn't really know how to shoot very well. The lance also has a 45% armor penetration, which makes it one of the best weapons to use for penetrating enemy armor. So when you're taking on mechanoids, the Empire, pirates with power armor, get some good shots with a charge lance and you're going to be fine. And now, I suppose to be fair, I do have to give you some of the cons of this weapon, despite how much I love it. So we'll go straight in with the fact that it's got very high crafting costs and it's locked behind a late game tech, the same as the charge rifle, except this costs 60 plasteel and 3 advanced components. And if you play Rimworld a lot, you know advanced components are very difficult to come by unless you know how to build them yourself. So it's quite a costly endeavour to build these weapons. And also, a slightly more minor one, it only shoots 1 bullet, so if you miss it and you give it to someone that's not a very good shot, you're really wasting a lot of damage potential, unless of course you have no choice. And that, my friends, is my list. Thank you so much for joining me today. Let me know in the comments what you think of my list, and also I'd like to know what your personal lists are too. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you all next time. Thank you and have a great day.